This week, we wanted to do a deeper dive on buying versus rent and talking about that for people that are trying to navigate that whole world. Tracy, you've got an interesting take on UNM Area. We're going to talk about that as our featured area this week.
Right.
And then we're going to do some more 2026 predictions. I've got my list of, things to look for in 2026 in housing and real estate in the Albuquerque area. Welcome to Albuquerque Real Estate Talk, episode 565. It is the beginning of 2026. We're in the first week of January still.
Well, kind of the second week.
Kind of. Are we?
It's the 7th, 8th. It's the 8th. We're in the second week.
Okay. Got it. All right. We're somewhere in there.
Well, we did our New Year's show last week, so it feels like week 2 for sure.
I know. The last week we've been doing all this, everybody's doing their 2026 predictions, which we're going to do some more of. But everybody it still feels like the beginning of the year, right?
It does. So we need to welcome in the extraordinary Leah Romero Kaiser.
Hi.
So Leah is sort of a backbone of our team, and I don't know, you want to tell them what you do?
So I do a little bit of everything. I'm sort of a gesture of all hats. I wear many hats, usually simultaneously throughout the day. My official job title is transaction manager. So I work alongside all of our wonderful brokers within the office and just kind of make sure everything stays on track. I get listings up and running, make sure our photography is great, in addition to our photography partners who we have great relationships with. When our brokers successfully meet clients and get properties under contract, I work to keep them in line with deadlines and make sure paperwork goes where it needs to go.
I always think about it this way. It's like when you get a home under contract, it's like this delicate little egg, let's say, right? And you've got to carry that thing through this minefield of different.
There's no Humpty Dumpty around here.
Yeah, exactly. You got to carry this contract, this agreement between the buyer and seller through this minefield to get it to closing.
Yes.
And there's all these contingencies and all these dates and deadlines and just all this stuff going on. And that's what you help with. And
that is what I help with.
And that's really like the unsung thing in the real estate transaction is there's all this stuff going on in the background that is, it doesn't get to closing if it doesn't happen. And
right.
So that's what you do. So we appreciate what you do.
Thank you. And I think we're going to dive into that next week a little deeper.
Yeah, we'll do more of that. Yeah.
Be on the lookout for that. This is my first, and I've already agreed to a second appearance. So
yay.
Yeah, there we go.
So, of course, we also have Sam here out of camera view, who's our producer every
There he is.
week.
Oh, there's Sam's hand.
We appreciate Sam taking great care and making sure we have a great podcast every week.
And just a reminder, we're the Venturi Group of Real Broker here in Albuquerque, and our phone number is 505-448-8888, and our website's welcomehomeabq.com. So
dive in.
Yeah, let's dive in. Yeah.
I was out at various properties this week, one of them listing for sale, and another one I was meeting some inspectors and things. And I was at this house waiting for somebody to show up for our appointment, standing out in the yard, and I looked across and there was these, I think they're alpacas, and they were watching me, and they were
some
kind
big,
of
furry,
I've
four-legged
seen them
creatures.
before.
Yeah.
I've seen them before out and about. And they were out there, and there was chickens walking around them. They were laying down, and I was trying to get them to come to me without telling all the neighbors. So I was like clicking and saying, I wanted to get them closer so I could get a picture of them and show everybody. And I was like, are they alpacas or are they llamas? I don't know the difference. So, of course, I Googled it. I'm sure they're alpacas. But then the very same day, I was driving down Rio Grande, and I saw, right at Paseo there's a sign, and the alpacas are right there next to Paseo at Rio Grande. And it said Alpaca Farm something or other. And I was like, wow, 2 in the same day. It was great. But I was thinking, we need to remind everybody what a diverse community we have for homeowners in our metro area, where right by UNM, perhaps you could have chickens in your backyard, because I've shown houses there where there's been chickens in the backyard. I don't know if they're supposed to be there. I mean, legally or covenant, city rules wide, if they're supposed to be there or not. But I've seen a lot of chickens in residential areas. But think about the East Mountains, Corrales, Placitas, the Valley, South, Valencia County,
Torrance County, Socorro County, yeah.
All the places where people can kind of live their dreams with animals. You
Well,
know?
yeah, no, for sure. It's interesting. I was having a conversation with a broker about Rio Rancho and what is E1 zoning in
Oh,
Rio Rancho. We don't even think about it. Most zoning in Rio Rancho is R1, residential one property
Or
is what.
E2.
Or
E2 is pretty common too.
yeah, but E is I guess they call it a state, but basically it allows a horse.
I think of it as equestrian
Yeah.
versus estate. I know it's technically estate, but in Rio
Yeah.
Rancho, it usually also equates to equestrian.
Yeah, so yeah, very much. And of course, Corrales calls itself the horse and donkey capital of New Mexico. So,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, rightly so. They have a beautiful arena where you can ride
Yeah.
and work out your animals.
Well, there's
so.
an arena up in North Albuquerque Acres.
Yes,
that
there
people
is.
forget about.
Yeah.
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 So,
public.
all right.
Before we move on, I need to know,
okay.
did you get a picture?
I did
Were you
not.
successful in
Wait,
getting them
wait.
over to the fence?
No, they never. I kept clicking and making.
Okay, wait.
When
Here,
I
wait.
had horses.
You. How do you tell the difference? Did you ever
Well, it
figure
was
it out?
something about the pointy ears versus they're usually bigger, smaller, fluffier. I don't know, more friendly.
That was really helpful.
I know it wasn't, but they weren't close enough.
I think maybe just go down to any local high school and you can see the boys
Well,
with
I'm
the
just gonna get
haircuts,
out
and
my-
then they're very llama alpaca coated
Okay.
right now.
So
Ah,
I couldn't see them close enough to differentiate, but I'm pretty sure that they're alpacas because I've seen them before.
well, I've got this new thing. Not new, been around for a couple years now on Google, where you can do an image search where you snap a shot of
Oh.
it and it tells you what you're looking at.
Well, they were laying down and they were a ways away. They never got up, even though I was calling them. Just like when I called my horses when I was a kid, I would go, and they would just come running. Well, the alpacas went.
Well, you didn't have any food, and the horses usually you had a carrot for the horses,
No,
right?
I'd have oats, but yeah.
Yeah.
But usually I'd have something that they wanted to come for. You're right. Not a saddle. They didn't come for that. But it was like the chickens were more interested in me than the alpacas. So anyway.
Well, chickens have a whole personality. We could have a whole show on that.
I just looked through my photos to see if I got anything because I zoomed in on my camera and it was just not getting it. But
Yeah.
it brought up the picture I took of all the crows.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a totally different topic that I won't go into, but the valley's been covered with crows. It's like a bad movie.
Look at that.
So
Yeah, I know.
you
Sorry.
guys-
It's kind of like
can't-
the upside
you
down in
can't-
Stranger Things. I'm sorry,
You
we're
can't do a
hijacking your podcast. But
and talk about what you're looking at on a screen. Okay, I mean it's anyway. Okay, all right. We've got a big
Okay.
big topic
Let's
today.
go.
And this is a little more.
Lots to
I want to
cover.
say serious, but there's always this conversation of should I rent or should I buy, right? And one of the things we did just recently is we created a little quiz that's on our website that somebody can go through and answer yes or no questions and say, okay, is it better for me to rent or better for me to buy? And it's not just about the finances. We'll get into that in a second. We also have a quiz on our website about should I be a home buyer also, and it's kind of similar things. It makes
Right.
a lot of different things to think about. But what we want to talk about, Tracy, is renting versus buying. And again, it's not just about the money. We'll get into the money, but that's where we're going to go today. So
Yep.
first off, when we talk about this buying versus rent, it's beyond the math. So this week we wanted to do a deeper dive into renting versus buying, right? It's a common conversation that comes up in our world, and there's, calculators online that give you the math, right? And you can compare the math. And one thing I want to talk about that we'll get into is that $300 a month saving worth it? And that's just a tease to kind of get to that. So for both of you guys, when we talk about renting versus buying, other than the math, what do we need to be talking about from a home ownership standpoint?
Oh, well, of course, there's the whole livability, right, of owning versus renting.
When you say livability, what do you mean by that?
I'm just thinking about making it your own, right?
Yeah.
You can paint the walls, you can get to know neighbors and feel like you're a part of the community. I mean, there's lots of things besides the money in the difference between renting and buying.
And the sense of stability, I think, also is a huge factor when you're thinking about if I don't pay my mortgage, foreclosure's a little differently than if I don't pay my mortgage and I'm getting evicted in 30 days.
Well, if you don't pay
shouldn't
your
do
rent,
that, right? You
Yeah.
shouldn't, or if you don't pay your rent. But I think stability is a huge factor. And as we delve into this, I hope we'll talk about that a little further and what that means for people.
That's an interesting point you just made. I never thought about that. Is if you're this is a podcast, so we can say stuff that is a little crazy,
a little
but,
wild.
But the reality is, if you're a renter and you stop paying rent, you're going to get evicted.
You're going to get evicted
quickly.
much quicker than if
you're a homeowner and you're
you have to
getting
go through the
foreclosed.
foreclosure
You might
process.
have 6 months.
Yeah.
You might have 2 years.
Sometimes 2 years. It kind of depends, you know. It really. So
I'm
that's.
sorry. That's just a crazy idea, but it's the truth.
It's a different perspective.
No, it is. I mean, that's obviously not a reason to buy versus
No,
rent.
not at all.
But it's still reality.
It's still reality.
Yeah. Okay.
There's other reasons.
Sure.
I mean, pet restrictions on rentals can make it really hard for some people to get a rental that will accommodate. And sometimes it's just family size. There's just not rentals that comfortably accommodate maybe the size of the family and the pets.
Well, and a lot of it is when we're sorry, Sam, we're gonna have to start over. No. What did you just say?
And a lot of it is.
Oh,
I was talking about pet and people.
Well, and that's just it, Tracy. It's the flexibility of it. If you're a tenant in somebody else's property, you're paying their mortgage, but you have to basically keep the property in good condition the way they want it. You can't make it your own. Many times you can't have pets. You can't, build the fence. You can't build the dog run. You can't do, stuff like that you would be able to do if you have your own property, for sure. So that part of it is the flexibility. Part of it is the stability in creating roots in the community, right? Like you were saying, Leah.
It encourages community involvement when you're an owner. I think, you're going to be there for a while to get to know your community, your neighbors, and you go for a walk to the neighborhood park or you take your pet for a walk, you get to know people, and that feels good.
Yeah. And then what other stuff? I mean, it's kind of like this emotional, like it's yours, right? There's something to that whole idea that you own it.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good thing.
The tangibility between like the work you've been doing pays off eventually, and you have something that is yours. And like I mentioned earlier, unless you just stop paying, nobody can take it away from you.
Yeah.
Another risk factor for rentals is you're in somebody else's property. Their circumstances may change and they may need to liquidate that. So while you may have been paying on time and you may be the perfect tenant and you may be ideal, it's still somebody else's property that can be taken away from you for a multitude of reasons.
And we have seen that, unfortunately,
We have.
several times in the last year where somebody's renewal is coming up and they're told you need to find a new place because we're going to sell the property or we're going to re-rent it to somebody else. It's a family member. I've seen that come up too. And all of a sudden you're having to move. And, there's a cost involved with moving, packing up.
Absolutely.
And the time involved.
Cost, not just financial, it's the emotional of
And
moving.
the physical.
Yeah. Well,
And the
that's
physical.
just it.
Yeah.
A couple
So-
other things I wanted to talk. I want to go to the other side of this and just say, okay, the argument for renting versus buying. Okay, so for renting is it's cheaper per month, at least at the surface, and we're going to unwrap that a little bit more here in a second.
For most properties, it's cheaper to rent these days. A few years ago, we
Yeah.
were saying the opposite, that it's cheaper to own, but
Yeah.
right now it's probably cheaper to rent. I did a quick search, Tiga. We don't have a great search site for finding rentals here, which is
Sorry,
the
that's
bane
you just
of our real
you just
estate.
triggered me
I
because
know.
of all the work I've done at the MLS trying to fix that problem. But
Right.
it's a hard one.
So I just did a quick search. I'm focusing our neighborhood of the week is going to be the UNM area. So I looked at the UNM area and went, okay, what's out there right now to rent? And studio, 1 bedroom, they start at about $1,300 and go up, according to what I could find just now, which isn't a big sampling. But I was like, okay, a 1 bedroom, but then you get to 2 bedrooms, and it was not that much more. And that's what we see a lot of people doing is sharing right now, right? And so
They kind of have to. I mean, during the pandemic, just like home prices went ballistic, property rents went ballistic as well.
right.
Over the last few years, rents have settled out just like home prices. Rents have been appreciating 2-3%. That's really almost identical to what home prices have been doing. So, rents have settled down, home prices have settled down. The big challenge with the home pricing right now and affordability is the interest rate. And again, we'll get into that here in a second. So renting is stabilizing. There is, market forces actually work. Believe that or not, that when you have more supply, things stabilize, and that's what happened with both housing and with rents in particular. So rents are stable, but still going up every year.
Well, and let's talk about the building equity for somebody else versus for yourself, right? So renting builds zero equity for you, right? If you're renting a place for $2,000 a month or something, that's $24,000 a year that you're not putting towards ownership, right?
Correct.
So when you're a owner, you're building wealth through real estate. When you're a renter, you're helping whoever owns that property with their wealth building and their equity.
So I did some math, and I'm not going to get into the details on it, but what I did is I compared purchasing a $320,000 home, which is a moderate, home you can buy in,
You
three
can get
bedroom,
brand new right now for
300,
$320,000.
yeah, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, house. That same house will rent for about $2,200 a month right now if you want a single family detached home, right? So I did the comparison. The first year, it's going to save you about $300 a month. I think it was $2,800 or something, or I don't remember the number, but it's about $300 a month, right?
Save you how? Who's saving it?
You're as the renter, you're saving that a month.
Okay.
Right. However, over time, people forget the two simple calculations that you need to put into that as well. Yes, it's saving you whatever a month, but every month you're buying down your principal when you're an owner, right? You have principal and interest on your mortgage. That you're not paying 100% interest every month. As a renter, technically you are paying 100% interest every month. But as an owner, you're buying down your principal, which means that's forced savings. That's money you wouldn't have saved otherwise. So that's going into equity in your home. You're also getting appreciation every year, right? So that 3 or 4% appreciation that we expect to see going forward goes in your pocket versus if you're a renter, you are paying that 3 or 4% per year every year
In an increase.
in your rent.
So Tigo, even a small appreciation builds wealth in ownership. So on a $300,000 house, you gave a $320 estimate. 3% appreciation a year over 1 year is about $9,000 a year in wealth building.
These numbers are going to blow you guys away. Okay. So I did the comparison, and again, I'm not going to get into the deep math on it because it's pretty easy to do with ChatGPT and AI tools these days. But basically what I did is I said that $320,000 house, okay, and that same property, but you rent it, over 5 years, you've gained $111,000 in equity, okay, over 5 years. And that's, again, equity in your home. That's the appreciation of the home as well as what you've paid down on the home over time. And that's with a modest 3% home price appreciation per year. Over 10 years, it's $174,000 in equity that you've gained. And that's based on a low down payment of only about $16,000. So you could back that $16,000 out of these numbers. But still, over the long term, the math makes sense. And it just depends. And that's why we have a quiz to talk about that.
Okay, so it's time to take the reality quiz check. This is the part where our listeners actually get to interact and play along, so be sure to look for these questions on the podcast screen as well. Today I'm going to be asking Tigo and Tracy, who I lovingly refer to as T&T, 4 questions that can help figure out if 2026 is the year to finally stop renting and to start buying, or maybe it's not. Maybe these don't make sense and you have more no's than you have yeses. And
Wait. You mean a realtor says maybe it's not a good time to buy?
It very well may not be. I mean, the reality is it could not be.
That's our job. I'm sorry, I'm getting off script here a little bit, but that's our job is to give people good advice. If we say, oh, you're only going to be here a year,
Wait,
well,
let her ask the question.
Okay.
Let's hold on, because that leads into my first question.
Okay, I'll shut.
So let me just preface this by saying there are no wrong answers, only real ones. So question number 1 is the 3-year rule. Do you expect to stay in Albuquerque or the greater Albuquerque area for at least the next 3 years?
You mean in the house if you're in the house, a buyer?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a perfect question. I mean, the math used to be 2 years. It's closer to 3 years now. And that's just the math.
That's to be able to resell it if you're planning to leave the area and not be here within 2 to 3 years, it's probably better to be a renter, unless you're one of those smart people who buys a house in every market you live in and you keep it and you make it a rental to continue your wealth building with that house.
Well, and there's a lot of that going on.
Right. So if you're planning to only live in the house for maybe 2 to 3 years and then sell it, it's better to be a renter probably.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think 5 years, it's a no-brainer. If you're definitely going to be in the same area, you want to be in the same part of town, neighborhood for at least 5 years, buying is definitely the way to go. And remember, you don't necessarily have to have a big down payment. You know, there's down payments as low as 3.5%, but there's also down payment assistance programs in New Mexico.
Well, there's also down payments as low as 0.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you're a veteran, you definitely have that, but there's also the MFA programs.
Right.
I digress.
Okay, question number 2, the income stability test. Is your income or your job stable enough to commit to a fixed monthly housing payment?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And I think along with that, it ties into this whole idea. Also, when you are a owner, your housing cost for the most part is locked in for the next 30 years. If you're a renter, it's going to keep going up 3 or 4% per year and follows inflation. And so, yeah, I mean, if you have the stability in your job and your income, this also gives you this stability in your housing cost. One other thing on that is right now our interest rates are fluctuating around 6.25%, 6.5%, let's say. If mortgage rates drop more, you have an opportunity to actually reduce your monthly expense
By refinancing.
By refinancing.
Yeah. I was going to say, the question, if your income or your job is not too stable, should you be an owner or a renter? Obviously, it depends on what you currently are. But, we started this segment with, that foreclosure takes a long time. A renter can be booted out very quickly if they stop paying. So the initial thought was you're going to be a lot safer to be a renter. But now that I'm digging deeper into it, I'm thinking, well, you might be better off being an owner if you can afford to buy and everything right now is good. Get that house. And sometimes you have fluctuations, but you can catch up again as an owner. Whereas a renter, a very temporary 3 months of poor income could really affect your ability to stay in a property.
Which brings me to a second part of this particular question is how stable is stable enough? We don't really have a way to quantify that. Does it mean you've had the same job for 10 years? Or can it lean more towards maybe your job has changed, but your income hasn't really shifted, or it's been better? Your change in employment can shift your income up or down. There's a fluctuation that happens there. So stability doesn't necessarily equal employment.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because if you're self-employed, or which a lot of people are, obviously in our business, most everybody in our business is self-employed. I think it's a good point. I would look at it from the standpoint of the way a mortgage lender looks at it, because what they're looking at is they want to know that you have a steady income over time, right? And
a steady history of paying your bills on time.
Exactly. Well, that's part of it, but I'm just talking about the income part. Because if you switch from one job to another within the same industry, that doesn't really matter, right? But if you start totally over and go self-employed, yeah, that's going to be a challenge for mortgage lenders, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think it's. I don't remember the number, Tracy. 2 or 3 years, is what you need to look
2.
at. Yeah, is it 2?
It's 2.
Is it 2 now? Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I think that's just another part of the whole big picture when you're looking at all of this.
Which is why you need a realtor and a trusted lender to help guide you.
Yes.
Question number 3, the HVAC oh no test. If your heater or AC failed tomorrow, could you handle the repair without going into crisis mode?
So just for our listeners, who haven't had an AC or a heater replaced recently, we're talking $12,000, $15,000, $16,000
at
perhaps.
A base minimum.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Not a swamp cooler. I'm not talking about if your swamp cooler goes out. That's not $12,000 to $16,000. Obviously, this cost depends on a lot of details about your house and its size. But do you have the reserves as an owner to take care of a big bill that might come up as homeowner?
Well, and to piggyback on that is just maintenance. Okay, when you're a renter, if the toilet stops working, you call your landlord. If you're an owner, if the toilet stops working, you fix
it or you call somebody.
Or you call somebody to fix it,
You call
right?
Tigo. No, I call Tigo.
Yeah, we can all call Tigo, but
Yeah,
yeah.
so that's one of those things too, where you have to remember that, right? If you're an owner, now this, again, you're building equity in this thing, right? This is an asset that you need to take care of. So you have to consider maintenance cost. And those numbers that I gave earlier, I did put a calculation in there for maintenance cost I calculate about 1% per year, right?
Okay.
So $300,000 house, $3,000 a year. That's pretty light. But if it's just general maintenance, that's probably all you need.
Yeah, my initial response to that when you said $3,000, I live in Valencia County and I live on a property with a well and a septic.
Yeah.
So you threw out $3,000. I'm like, that wouldn't even get me back in the game.
Yeah.
If I had something that happened with my well or my septic system, or God forbid, both simultaneously, $3,000 isn't going to touch it.
Yeah, you're right.
You
Absolutely.
know, so again, there are a lot of factors.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And just on this thing too is remember there's home warranties. We talk about them all the time in home purchases.
Right where I was going to go. I was going to say when we work with people who have used most of their pennies to get into a new home, right? They just bought a house and they're cash poor. We always suggest they buy at least that first year home warranty so that if something major fails, while that first year at least, they have a home warranty to call.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of times they've just spent all their money that they've saved for their down payment.
Absolutely.
And they get in there and 3 months later, the whatever stops working, they can call the warranty company.
Well, and then of course there's the new construction.
Right. Which is a great option. I always tell people, even if new construction is a little bit more money with the incentives the builders have, and that you get a new house that you probably won't have any major issues with for 10 or 15 years or any big maintenance bills.
Right.
It can really save you in the long run.
Yeah, that's a big one as well. So yeah, no, I think that's an important thing is this whole idea of not just bills for unexpected repairs, but just ongoing maintenance and taking care of your
Absolutely.
home because, I do a lot of work in what we call wholesale real estate where, homes that have not been taken care of that need some TLC, as they say. When people let homes go, they drop in value drastically. So you
Yes.
need to keep that in mind that you do need to take care of your home as well.
Okay, and so for our fourth and final question, the control factor. Do you prefer having control over your housing, meaning you don't have a landlord selling the property, which is something we touched on earlier, or changing the rules, your term, your rental amount? It can come down. I know we spoke earlier about one of the things we didn't hit on that we had our notes was generational wealth and how that builds it. If you're in a rental or a leased property and something happens to a family member, you may not be able to bring them into your home to help care for them. But with home ownership, you can.
I think, the actual question of prefer, what you have control over. I think that some people just really want the simplicity. They want to be able to call the landlord when something needs fixing. And maybe they travel a lot for work or they're just not handy and they really prefer hands-off and simplicity. They're probably better being a renter.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's people out there that are major influencers out there that say that like I want it easy. I don't care that yes, I'm not building equity. I just don't care. I just want easy, simple. I want to write somebody a check every month and not have to think about it. And that's a perfectly fine answer.
It really is. But when it comes to control, do people overestimate how much freedom they have when long-term renting?
Overestimate? I think they probably underestimate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Explain.
Well, you're saying freedom as a renter.
As a renter, yes.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of freedom. You can't just decide to paint the house.
But you can
purple.
just pick up and leave.
Oh,
Sometimes,
okay. All right,
so
we're talking about two
so
different things. Yes,
You're
okay.
right. You can't just paint the walls purple, right? Your kid can't decide today I want a lime green accent wall in my
Yeah,
room, and we're
yeah.
free to do that. We have to get permission
Right.
if we're renters. But if we wanted to just kind of pick up and leave, provided you're not locked into a lease or a term,
100%. Yes. Yeah. If that's important to you, that freedom of
that
being able
nomadic
to,
lifestyle.
yeah. If you're just like, well, I'm going to check out Albuquerque for a year or so, see how I like it, and I want to be able to move to Denver in a couple of years, maybe I'll do that. So yeah, if that's your lifestyle, then yes, I think renting makes more sense.
Yeah, it just piggybacks on our how long do you need to be in the home so that if you need to resell it, you can resell it and not be upside down.
Correct.
Right. like happens with cars, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Featured community this week. Anyway, thank you. If you got any questions about buying versus renting and you want to have a deeper conversation, go through the math, reach out to us. We're the Venturi Group at 505-448-8888. So I'll just got to put that plug in there, let people know that, we're here to help. That's what we do. We want to give you good advice.
Okay, so recently Leah and I helped some people sell a home on Morningside in the Altura Parkish area, UNM. And there's some really great neighborhoods around UNM. And when I was looking at focusing on the UNM area, I was, before I looked at numbers, I was thinking about the variety of housing styles and opportunities there, right? So you've got a lot of student housing where people are renting apartments or condos.
Or the shed in the backyard.
Well, there are a lot of converted,
There is some creative housing
The loose ADU.
Sorry, I don't mean to be mean. I'm just saying, there is some of that. Because with the student, and that happens at every college, neighborhood. So anyway,
I was, expecting to get a big diversity of prices and opportunities. So I'm just going to really quick give a little. Right now, there's 65 properties on the market in the area that I defined as UNM, which is east of I-25, south of I-40. And I kind of went over to San Mateo because that includes that Altura Park area, kind of those Rambler ranch style homes kind of in that.
Yep. Down to Gibson.
Carlisle. And then I went down to Gibson.
Yeah, okay.
So there's 65 currently on the market right now. The average square foot size is 1,826. The price range went from $95,000 to $819,000, which
I'm
is
not
what I was
surprised at
expecting.
all. Yeah. Well, let me think. Let's see. You've got the ones on Aspen, those condos. Is that what they are?
Yeah,
the
they're
condos
like
on Aspen.
$47,000.
Yeah.
No, they're like $89,000.
Yeah. The condos there
On
up
Vail.
to the homes in Ridgecrest that are, as much as $1 million, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So the median price sold on the market is $385,000. Average days on market in the area right now is 66, so just about 2 months.
Okay.
Right? Average list price is $433,000. So there's a little bit disconnect between the median and the average list price, right?
Pretty normal.
433 versus 385. And then when you look at sold, 397 sold in the last year in that region right there.
397 homes. So and just to put that in perspective, I just posted it yesterday. There was 9,800 homes sold in greater Albuquerque area.
Yeah. So generally, the low price was $62,500 probably on Vail.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about those condos.
Yeah.
And the high was $1,250,000. So
Probably
big
on
range,
Ridgecrest.
big range.
Ding ding.
Ridgecrest or Altura or
Yeah.
North UNM.
Yeah.
There's some really
Pill Hill.
great. Yeah, Pill Hill. Do people still call it that?
I don't know. That's what I've always called
It
it.
used to
I've
be
never heard that.
You never heard that term?
No.
So it used to
by-
be where all the doctors lived.
It's by
This all-
Highland Pharmacy, right?
Right by Highland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah.
know Highland
Yeah.
Pharmacy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's by all the hospitals right there.
Yeah.
And a lot of the doctors used to
I
live
mean, I
there.
had a
lot
picture of it immediately when you said it. I pictured that area and I went, oh.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I've never heard the
Well,
term.
there's
and a lot of the
Netherwood Park.
professors.
Netherwood Park.
Netherwood Park, and
yep.
that's more north of UNM, but
Okay.
just kind of at the.
I'm
Big
going back
Eye.
to all my tour days when I tour all over the city on real estate tours. I haven't done one in a while, but yeah, I'm
Yeah.
remembering all those neighborhoods. They're great.
Yeah.
There's
And-
some great pockets.
Yeah, very much so. So if you're thinking about that area, of course, we have one of our team members who just moved into the area.
Nob Hill.
Nob Hill area.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of jealous because she's been doing all sorts of fun things because she can walk. She went to the what was it called? The stroll night where they had Central closed and all the Christmas stroll, I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where they have hot chocolate vendors
Right,
and people and a parade. And then she went to the chili drop, which was new, I think, on Central for the New Year's Eve.
Oh, I'd never heard of that.
but
Okay,
we
I
were-
feel so behind.
Yeah, I hadn't until it came up this year. And then we were talking about we have a meeting in the UNM area that is going to end right at dinner time. And you and I were saying, well, we should go to a restaurant. We don't get to that part of town very often. And she started listing off all her favorite restaurants near UNM and Nob Hill. And I was like, I've never been there. I don't know that one. I've never heard of that one. And she's like, oh my gosh, this is so good. And then I'm like, okay, well, seems like we're going to have dinner in UNM.
One other thing that just occurred to me about the whole UNM area and homes in that area, there's that neighborhood that has the hidden park, right?
Right. It's called Hidden Park
It's
for
called
us,
Hidden
but
Park.
it's not really called Hidden Park.
But
yeah.
it's a park you can only get to it if you back
If
up
you
to it, right?
live
Well,
in that.
I think there is some public access, but
okay.
yeah, all the houses back to it. So there's no street access. You have to know it's there, which would be why they call it Hidden Park. It's
Got it.
right at Lomas Central and
Got it.
Carlisle.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to try to find it on the map here real quick, but it's right there. I've looked at houses, or I've helped people with houses in that area before that back to it. Unfortunately, the house that I showed last that backed to it, my client didn't like it, but I was like, you could make this anything and back to that hidden park. It's
Well,
so
usually when
cool.
those homes come on the market, they go really quick because
And they often don't even hit the market.
Yeah.
Because people know.
Neighbors know. and-
Neighbors know
Yeah.
somebody in
Yeah.
that area has somebody waiting to
Yeah.
move in.
Yeah.
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 Or the realtor starts telling people, I'm going to be listing, and they go, I have somebody for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Let's talk about it.
Okay, this is where you guys get to tell me what I got wrong. Well, actually, we'll have to wait till the end of the year to see what I actually got wrong. But I wanted to go through. So what I did, I posted I'll hold it up here. Anyway, it's on my Instagram. It's on my, I think it's on my Instagram.
The park is called McDuffie Park,
McDuffie Park.
but we call it Hidden Park.
Hidden Park. Okay.
I just
got
found it. It's Lomas and Carlisle.
Side note. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I posted my housing trends to watch in 2026. It's on my Instagram. I don't know if I put it on Facebook or not, but I want you guys to tell me what I got wrong, or if you agree or disagree, or
This is for 26?
argue with me. Yeah, for 2026.
Argue with me.
I think
You should never
just-
sit across from two women and invite
Well, I
them to
work with
argue
you guys every day, so I know how this is going to go. My first prediction.
No, I agree with everything. We can just end this
Oh,
segment.
stop.
You are so smart, Tigo. You are right.
First time ever that's happened. With, of course, well, no, it's happened a lot with tons of sarcasm, just like that. But I've never heard it seriously. All right, 2026 will be loud was my first prediction, meaning we're going to hear a lot of stuff from politicians about housing. This is my prediction right here, right now, that we're going to hear something from the Trump administration probably this month. It's going to be some big announcement with a lot of fanfare. It could even be something like Freedom Cities, which they've talked about, where
I
they're
don't
basically.
even know what that is.
So Freedom Cities is this concept that they'll build a city from scratch on public land, government land, to build affordable and, basically build a city from scratch, ground up. So I don't know if that'll be the other thing that's going to be loud is the headlines, Tracy.
The headlines are always loud. I don't know how we could object to not thinking you'll get that right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you
They're-
think?
they're
I
always
kind of have
loud.
the feeling he might have built this so that we can object, but we'll find out. That's only the first one.
Well,
Let's see.
yeah, I got to get my argument in first, and then you guys. Yeah. So you guys agree? There's always going to be housing noise, and I know we're kind of in that bubble, so we see that more than I think most people. But I think there's going to be more crossing over from the housing world into the public domain in housing this year, because affordability is the big word of the year. In fact, that's on my list here. Is that affordability is going to be the word of the year, not just in housing, but kind of in everything. The politicians have latched onto it, so we're going to hear a lot about affordability. My other prediction is Albuquerque will stay steady. It's not a headline market. We're not going to have any boom or bust cycle. We're just going to chug along.
I think that we might see some bumps upward. I feel like we've started January with a lot more sellers coming out of the woodwork. We've got quite a few homes that'll be coming on the market. We've seen, I don't know, I feel like there's more sellers ready to sell right now, and that we might see a bump up.
So one thing,
I think it might be hotter than you think.
yeah, I feel like it's a wound up rubber band waiting to let loose on a little
But
airplane.
that's not what you just said. You
Well,
said it's going to be very steady. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I know I'm contradicting myself. The thing is, it does feel like that, but I felt that way for 2025 too, and then it never happened.
Yeah.
So I'm a little more cautious this year that we're going to have this big spring back. The thing that I want to say, though, you said there's a lot of people getting ready to sell. And people may hear that and say, oh my gosh, we're going to have a flood of inventory. We're going to have way more homes than buyers. Well, most sellers are also buyers. So don't forget that. I just want to mention that.
Great point.
I have 3 I've been talking to this week. One's moving to the Phoenix area for work. One's moving to New Jersey for work. They're not going to be, our appointment to even meet is late February because of timing for them. And the other one is moving to Texas. So they're
So
not
you just
staying.
busted my whole.
But those are just my
But they're
3.
still buying homes in
But
those
they're
markets.
buying homes in those
Is right,
markets,
yeah.
was what I was going to say.
Yeah,
So yes,
yeah.
they are still buyers.
2 things, just prices and sales. I think prices are going to continue to be moderate appreciation, 2 or 3% maybe in 2026.
Okay.
I don't see anything pushing it one way or the other. I think inventory, the number of homes being listed and sold, I think it's going to bump up a little bit. Now, you just contradicted that a little bit, Tracy.
No, I think it's a bump up a little bit. I don't see us going from up thousands, many thousands.
No flood of foreclosed homes.
Oh, definitely not that. No.
Sorry, I just set you up there.
Yeah.
Leah, this one's more for you because you're in the weeds day to day on, contracts and negotiation, and of course Tracy, you are too. But I think buyers and sellers are going to keep sharp pencils, is the way I put it. Meaning people are gonna negotiate hard because there's not as much urgency on both sides. Is that fair?
Yeah, we hear all the time, well, I don't have to sell.
Right.
And I always wonder, I understand that you don't have to, but then why are we on market?
Yeah.
Because you want to.
Right.
So we need to figure out how to get you what you want, right?
Right.
We have to work toward that. We are seeing a slight increase in seller concessions. I'm seeing that on contracts more and more. It's starting to become popular. It was really popular in my very early career, which we won't delve into.
Well, I mean,
but
Tracy and I
it wasn't
lived,
a thing during the pandemic
No,
or
no.
afterward. So we are starting to see seller concessions come back, which is causing us to sharpen those pencils if we're on the listing side of things and try to work that out.
Would you agree, Tracy, that it's going to be more tough negotiations or just good negotiations? I don't know how to put it.
I would say it's going to be the same as last year.
If you're good at
You know.
negotiating, then it's not tough.
I think every transaction,
I'm going to write that one down.
every transaction has its challenges.
Absolutely.
And I think 2025 for buyers and sellers was tough. I think every transaction had things that, are tough for the buyers and sellers. And when it comes to repairs, it's like, wow, I need to find a better contractor that can do this cheaper, or I can't do it. Or I think, sharpening the pencil, there was more tough negotiations in the purchase offer, but then also the condition of the property.
Would you say buyers are pickier in 2025 than they have been in the past on the condition of the home?
I feel like yes.
Yeah.
I would agree.
And you feel that's going to continue
I
this
think
year?
I do.
Yeah.
I think it's because buyers feel like it's a little more balanced market, or they have a little more control and they want things to be in better shape.
Yeah. Yeah.
For,
I got it.
they're stretching themselves, they're getting a mortgage.
Yeah, prices have not come down, right? We
Right.
hit that earlier. Then we're projecting that they're going to continue to increase. So what used to be a $100,000 or $200,000 property, now our base median, you just said in the UNM, is somewhere closer to 360 or 380, right?
Yeah.
So that's a significant jump. They're
Yeah.
wanting bang for the buck, as
Yeah.
you would.
Yeah. Median price, what do we end up at? 350, 360 in the Albuquerque area. So overall, there was a term that came out over the last couple of years called the lock-in effect. And what that was people that are in homes that have a low mortgage rate, they're locked in because they don't want to give up that low mortgage. Right. We're in the same boat, Leah. I mean, Tracy and I are in the same boat. Leah, you're in the same boat.
Yeah.
Well, if you've got that 3, 4, even under
I'm
4.
sitting at a 2% interest rate on my house
Well,
right now.
Right.
I'm
So,
never going anywhere. That's our home.
well, and what's come out in the housing econ world that I follow is, 40% of their homes are free and clear. So what's up with those people? Why aren't they moving? Right? If 40% of the homes are free and clear,
That means they have no mortgage, they own it outright. So they could take that cash when they sell and put cash into a new property.
correct.
Which may be more money than what their home sells for, and maybe they do need a little mortgage, but it would, in general, they could, and maybe they are moving.
But what I'm calling that is the lifestyle lock-in effect, meaning They're happy where they're at. They look what it's going to cost, like you just said, to go to another home. The switching costs, as they say in the econ world, is switching costs. They're like, it's my lifestyle. I'm happy with it. I don't have a mortgage, right? So I think there's just still the turnover is going to continue to be slow.
So Tigo, as you know, our age, we're much older than Leah. We have come across several friends who are in the similar boat as us, where the home they're in is more than they need. The kids have all moved out. They have, too big of a house and property maybe, but they're not going to move because it's just easier to stay where they are. And those are some of those people, right?
Well, we're kind of those people. We have a mortgage, but we just have a small mortgage, and we don't need all the house that we have. The kids are gone, but yet it's like it's the house that everybody comes to on holidays.
It's our house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
It's what grounded
Your
us.
home. Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple other things. Mortgage rates. I mean, trying to predict mortgage rates is a fool's game, but
So you're going to do it right now?
Yeah, I'm going to do it right now.
So what are you thinking?
be a fool?
Where are we going to
prove
go?
myself a fool.
7.4%.
I have thoughts on mortgage rates.
Well, mine is don't expect anything. Maybe trickle down a little bit from where we are, and let's say 6.25 right now for a 30-year fixed. But nobody's projecting any big move in mortgage rates this year.
We're going to see some change in leadership on, Jerome Powell. So whoever is selected might have some reason to be a hero, and we might see something, a little bump here or there because of that type of thing.
But as we've talked about many, many times, the Fed rate doesn't naturally directly influence mortgage rates. It does. It affects the overall cost of money.
Right. And you can say it doesn't directly affect, but we know that somehow it does.
correlation
trickle down.
exists.
It does trickle into
Yeah.
mortgages. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. And then something that I've been thinking about is that, we've talked a lot about new construction, Tracy, and Leah, you see it where new construction, a lot of them have these incentives and rate buy downs to help people to purchase, to get their monthly payment under control. I think when some people are selling their home, they have to remember that when they're selling, they're competing with that new construction,
Yes.
right? And so, builders are going to shape the resale market. Don't forget about the new construction when we're talking about resale.
This is something our group is actually dealing with firsthand currently. We do have a home, and I was just talking to the broker that has the listing as well as Tracy about it yesterday, and the reality of their situation is exactly that. They're on the market as a resale, even though it's fairly new, but the new construction in the area is kicking their butt with incentives and pricing. So they're stuck. We're on market, we're staying there, we're waiting. Somebody will eventually buy it because things eventually always sell. It's going to work out in their favor, I hope, sooner rather than later, but that's exactly their situation.
Well,
So sellers need to know that if you're competing in an area where there's new construction, or even further away from new construction, because people look in broad areas often when they're looking at homes, you have to be competitive and maybe offer some incentives like the new builders are doing, new home builders are doing.
So overall, from what we just talked about, what would you say, what advice would you give for buyers in 2026, just off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I'd go back to that trifecta, right? Us, a lender, and them being ready, have their finances figured out, know what their comfort payment level is, know what type of loan, how much money they
Their
need to
purchasing
buy, their
power.
purchasing power, so that they go into it more educated. Let's sit down and do a strategy session, talk about the home buying process, what the hiccups might be, what the fun parts are, and how it really works, and look at the data. What is the actual list price versus sold price? Some people think they're going to get $20,000 off on a house, so they say, "Oh, let's look a little higher because we can get the seller to da 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 da." And I'm like, well, if you look at the data for that area, let's make sure that we're realistic. So
Yeah.
I think the home buying strategy, time to sit down. Don't just go and start looking at a house without having your ducks in a row, and have a great realtor and a great lender, if you need a lender, on your team so that you can feel confident.
Absolutely.
And Leah, should buyers be thinking more about negotiations and negotiation strategies, would you say? Or is that always part of it?
I think it's always part of it, but I would say that doesn't need to be top of mind of the buyer's mind. That needs to be our job. That's our job to help educate the buyer in a strategy session like Tracy was talking about. And it's our job to kind of lead them and to talk to them and to advise.
So the buyer should be open to asking questions like, okay, what should I do? What can I do to help, with this negotiation? What do you think I can get and what can I not get?
Right. If
For
the
maybe,
buyer's
yeah.
looking at a property and they say, okay, I really love it, but I want to offer $25,000 less. It's our broker's responsibility to say, if you love it, we need to get a little more realistic and start having those discussions.
Well, and base
Ultimately,
it
their
on
decision.
data.
Yeah, you got to base it on
Absolutely.
data, right? If it's a house that's been on the market for 300 days and it's clearly, $50,000
Yeah.
overpriced, then okay, that's one.
Yeah,
that's
at that
one,
point, I
yeah.
would trust you've run your CMA.
Right.
You have the data in front of
Right.
you. You can talk facts at that point.
But it's been on the market 2
Yeah.
days and it looks like it's at market. It's in great condition house.
We're
Well,
probably
yeah,
not.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
You might be
yeah.
offering over list price.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Okay, and then just to wrap up our segment here, for sellers, what would you recommend in 2026, Tracy?
I would say start talking to us early and not a week before you're ready to be on the market. Let's start putting the gear in motion for having your house ready, any repairs you might want to do ahead of time, any remodeling you might be thinking about doing for a new owner that we might say don't do that. Or
Consult with us first.
consult
Yes.
with us first. I would say it generally takes longer to have your house ready to show than you think. So let's start talking early and have you not being stressed out and rushed right at the end and going, okay, this is no fun.
And also that makes sense now because Tracy just gave us touching on the UNM area again. Average days on market were 66, I believe is what you said.
Yep.
We're not in the market where
No.
things are getting listed and flying off the shelf. So that expectation needs to get reset. That mind frame needs to be readjusted. Of course, there's always 3 factors, right? Price, condition, and location. And
Yeah.
we can only do anything about one of those.
Right.
So it matters.
Well, you can do something about condition, but that's you can't do anything about location,
can't.
obviously.
Well, you can put fountains in to hide noise, or you can put up fences and things.
Oh,
but
here we go.
generally, those are things.
There's always something that can be done.
There's always a
Tracy's-
but wait.
but wait,
Or you
there's
can
more.
find a buyer that's lived in Manhattan, New York City,
Yeah.
and
And
they
isn't
like the
affected,
noise. It
yeah.
helps them sleep better.
Yes.
Well, and
I did
location
have a
isn't
client like
but
that
location
once.
isn't just noise too, right? If
I
you're
know.
in, if somebody works on Basin and you're in North Rio Rancho, obviously that's, anyway. So, yeah, no, absolutely. Price, condition, location. I mean, you can do something about condition as a homeowner. It just depends on is the juice worth the squeeze?
Right.
Right. So you got to make sure you think about that before
And that's
you do
where
those
we'd
things.
like to help you decide if the juice is worth the squeeze.
The squeeze. There we go. We'll wrap it up there. Anything else you guys want to share?
Nope.
Think we're
Leah,
good.
thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
Hi.
Every
Bye.
week. So anyway, episode 305.
565.
500.
See, I keep them on track.
Yeah, she does. She does. She remembers
the
all these
book.
dates. Episode 565 in the books. We're the Venturi Group of Real Broker here in Albuquerque, serving Metro Albuquerque area. And we do have 2 different tests for home buyers on our website. We have one for, are you ready to be a home buyer? And then also a buy versus rent quiz that we just created. So check that out on our website at welcomehomeabq.com. Just look under the buyer menu and you'll find those. Take care.